fuck? I've got like Georgian cigarettes. I'm not gonna smoke inside. That's him. That's John Blade Runner. When something is clearly good or bad, we usually know how to react to it. And there are other instances, like when something is so bad that it is good. Yet, this is the fourth option, which is infuriating because it is something that clearly could be something great, and yet it lacks something. It lacks just a bit to be incredible, which makes it extremely frustrating. And I don't necessarily mean the first movie, but the franchise as a whole. You know, original Blade Runner movie, based on the book by Philip K. Dick, came out in 1982, and it takes place in 2017, because that is how we apparently looked like in 2017. Or in 2019, I'm sorry. In 2019, yes. Because in 2017, the second movie in this kind of a franchise came out, Blade Runner 2049. So it came out just 2 years short of the time that the first movie took place in. And I thought to myself, well, that is such a good idea to make the second movie at the time that the first movie takes place. And I hoped maybe we will get some kind of intergenerational franchise, so that the third movie would come out somewhere around 2049, where the second movie takes place. But no, apparently it was too much to ask for, because there is quite a lot actually of like short movies or comics that came out of this universe. But the first and second movie tried to be kind of continuation. I don't necessarily think it's a good continuation, but still, this year, 2026, there comes out like a mini series on Amazon Prime that will be continuing the story. So very shortly after the second movie came out, well, in terms of this franchise, it's a very short time. It's something like Blade Runner 2099 or some shit like that. I will probably watch it, but I don't expect much. And I don't want you to think that either the second or the first or the second movies are bad by themselves. They are good movies. The first I really liked as a teen. I still enjoy it, although as I rewatched it, I laughed a lot, which I don't think was intended emotion to express. The second movie is also good because there is literally me cast in the main character position. But they don't really work together as a franchise, and I think that it's a strange situation, but because usually people talk about some being greater than its parts, but here the parts alone are greater than the whole they add up to. I've got like a candle of a naked woman that a friend of mine made me years ago. Very lovely person. It smells amazing. It smells kind of like a lemon cake. What are the good things if not to use them? Shit. Yeah. So what is Blade Runner? If you've never seen any movies or you have not read the book, it began with a book by Philip K. Dick called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Earth went through total ecological collapse, kind of like in Cyberpunk, but worse. Basically, almost all life, besides human life, went extinct. There are some animals that are extremely rare. That's where the title comes from, because Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep refers to the fact that people buy electric animals as a kind of symbol status. We also know that humanity as a whole is much more advanced scientifically, because there are these things called androids, as they are also called replicants. For some reason, I always mess them up with synths from Fallout. We also know that humanity expanded beyond Earth, and quite far beyond Earth, because there is talk about the belt of Orion. And I actually had to look up how far away from Earth it is. And basically, depending on which part of it we are talking about, it's something between 1,000 and 2,000 light years away. So I don't know what kind of space travel exists in this universe, but it must be quite fast, because this will make more sense later. One character speaks about remembering, having memories of Belt of Orion, and he is 4 years old. Not only that, we know that one other person that was with him is only 2 years old. And I am referring to replicants, so androids, because they only live for 4 years. They are basically copies of humans that are just not born but designed. They are all designer babies, just without mothers or fathers. Well, look at her melting away. They are basically used like a slave labor. They don't have any rights. They are not treated like humans. And whenever they come to Earth, they are hunted and killed, which is actually called retiring, because everybody on Earth is an Apple fanboy. Because everybody on Earth does not treat them human, like living being with any kind of worth, because there have been some rebellions of them, hence they are now treated like a danger to everybody who meets them. And perhaps rightfully so, because they are basically superhuman in most senses. They are stronger, they are faster, they are more durable. Some of them are much more intelligent than normal humans, with that one caveat that they only live for 4 years. And obviously, not every one of them is satisfied with being a slave. So periodically they escape. But why, of all the places, would they be on Earth? Well, hold that thought. We will come back to it later. This is a thing that is kind of strange in the movie, because it isn't quite necessary. But there is something called Voigtkamp test, which is supposed to determine whether you are a human or an android, a replicant. And it basically works like a psychological test that automatically, with a machine, checks your responses. checks your unconscious responses, something like that. Whether your pupils dilate and how fast do they do that. The test basically tries to make you emotional and determines with that whether you are a person or not. It actually has been criticized by people like Lem, even when the book came out before the movies. I don't necessarily agree with Lem on his critique, but I just wanted to mention it because real life story between Lem and Philip K. Dick, writer of original Blade Runner, is quite fun. And basically it ended with Philip K. Dick suggesting that Lem does not exist, and even he wrote about it to FBI. But that sounds like something for, I don't know, Thor's Cabinet of Curiosities, and not this channel. The year is 2019. The action takes place in Los Angeles. But back to what I was saying. Why this test doesn't really make sense in context of this movie? Well, that is because some people can just see that somebody is not a human, but rather is an android. And we have like 2 examples of that in the movie. So they could have just used those people, but perhaps it is not common knowledge. But also what this movie does that I think is pretty fun is that because Earth is so polluted, because radiation is rampant and people are irradiated basically, and those who stayed on Earth are either those who really wanted to stay on Earth, had no choice to go off-world because they, for example, like one character, did not qualify on the medical tests, or third option, they are rich as fuck. And one of those people that are rich as fuck is Tyrell, the guy, the genius behind the design of brain of androids, of replicants. And basically every major human character in this movie is in some ways either ill or disabled in some sense. There are obviously background characters, but they do not matter. And sometimes it's something simple like needing glasses. And sometimes it's a genetic disease that makes you look older than you really are. While androids in the movies are basically perfect, healthy, beautiful, strong human beings. The other fun thing that they do in this movie is that there isn't really any good person truly in this story. But it is not kind of like in your face. It's sometimes more subtle. So basically everybody lands in some kind of gray area, although we can argue that some people are worse than others. But in this movie, if somebody is hot, sexy, cool, they murder people. If somebody is nerd, loser, geek, they are a part of greater systemic discrimination and evil. And before I get into the rest of the story and start actually explaining to you the first movie, before I continue with the second and comparing how they connect, consider liking, subscribing, leave a comment if you've watched those movies, and what do you think about theories I will suggest in this video. Thank you for watching and enjoy. Blade Runner starts with a police officer named Holden performing Voigtkampf test on a man named Leon Kowalski. The test takes place in the main base of Tyrell Corporation. As we learn later, tests became necessary after replicants tried to infiltrate Tyrell Corporation. Leon seems to be not a smart person, and as Holden continues asking questions, seems to be more and more agitated until he finally fires a gun he was hiding, killing Holden on sight. Leon is a first replicant we meet in the movie. We cut to a rainy street where Rick Deckard, it's him, it's Harrison Ford, waits until a spot opens and he orders some noodles. Unfortunately for him, a man named Gaff appears behind him, basically arresting him or simply telling him that he needs to go to a police station. Gaff, by the way, I don't know if he's anywhere here. Well, he is here, but he's not very well visible. He is one of the minor characters that is perhaps the coolest person in the movie. He has like a fucked up eye and he walks with a cane, and he's very important for the story, even though he appears quite rarely and we basically don't know anything about him. He takes Deckard to a police station where we learn why they need him. Because you see, Deckard is a Blade Runner. You might ask, what is a Blade Runner? Well, how fortunate that you ask, because I have the answer. Blade Runner is somebody who specializes in hunting down replicants. The police chief is not very important. His name is Bryant, and they have a little squabble where Deckard says, I'm not about this life anymore. And Bryant says, well, you have to do it. And Deckard says, so there is no choice, eh? And there is no choice. He has to hunt down 4 replicants. Next, we are met with some obvious exposition, but I think in this movie it works in favor, at least of certain interpretations of this movie. It's kind of like in Shutter Island. If you've ever watched it, it begins with a scene of the main character arriving at the island by boat. And when you watch it, the background seems like quite obviously to be a green screen. And you might think, well, maybe they didn't have a budget or technical possibility to do it better, but it can also be interpreted as this arrival not being fully real as the story goes on and certain things come to question. So here, Bryant explains to Deckard what is Noxus 6 replicant version. Why would he have to explain it to a Blade Runner that is seemingly the best Blade Runner around? Well, we'll get to that. One more thing, Deckard is not a very popular name, and it is French in origin. It's like a phonetic writing of French name Descartes, like René Descartes, the guy who said, I think, therefore I am. And it might sound like a reach, and I myself doubted if I am reaching or not. But one of the characters literally says, I think therefore I am in this movie, because this movie is about what it means to be human and so on. So of course they use it. Next, Bryant describes to Deckard 4 androids have escaped and reached Earth. Apparently there were 6 of them, but as previously stated, 2 were already retired. So, who are they? There is Roy Batty, who will be one of the major characters in the story. He was kind of a specialized, somewhat of an officer, let's say, somebody in a higher position, but still a replicant, a slave. He is the smartest of the group and possibly the smartest person within this story. He has obviously learned, well read, scientific terms, and he will use them. We will learn that they all are here because he has a certain plan. Next, we have a guy we've already met, Leon Kowalski. He was designed to haul heavy munitions, like artillery shells, basically, all the time. So he is possibly the strongest possible human or non-human around. We also have Zora, who is a woman and was basically designed to be kind of an assassin. And we have Pris. And Pris has possibly the most fucked up job because she is, how do I even say it? Well, just up front perhaps. She is designed to be a sex slave for soldiers. So we also learn that soldiers in this universe still exist, so humanity isn't at peace. As you might have noticed, those 2 female characters in this movie are so far without surnames, and in fact every major female character in this movie has only first name. And usually I would understand if it was read as kind of commodification of a woman within this story. But this story gets some grace from me because this is a story about people who are on some arbitrary basis treated as lesser, as worse. And so perhaps it tries to say something about treatment of women. But again, it's a movie from 1982, so maybe reading it as some kind of feminist choice is reaching a bit. One more thing about Gaff, the cool guy. He just loves making origami, and he's good at it. Yep. Next, Rick Deckard goes to Tyrell Corporation to meet Mr. Tyrell. And there he meets our main female character in this story, which is Rachel. Rachel is this lady, and this lady, she meets him there. There is also an electric owl they speak about. Deckard is obviously already enamored with her. It might be one of the few scenes in which Deckard does not drink, because from now on Deckard will be shown as absolute alcoholic. He is basically a noir detective thrust into the future of science fiction. Rachel greets him at the Tyrell Corporation, and later on Mr. Tyrell himself, with big old nerd glasses, appears and asks Deckard about this Voigtkampf test and whether it can truly detect if somebody is an android or not. He tells Deckard that he should perform this test on Rachel because he wants to see the test fail before it is applied to androids. And here, after this test, we learn that Rachel is in fact an android, but she is not aware of this. So Deckard questions Tyrell, how is it possible? Because every android is aware that they are an android. They just, wake up full-grown adults with slave labor as a mission for them. And Tyrell explains to him that she is some kind of a lab rat. She is a test run. She has memories implanted within her brain so that she believes she is a real human being. And this is another important fact because it sets precedent that somebody might not be aware that they are a replicant. Next, we meet Roy Batty and Leon Kowalski chilling out on the street as they enter some kind of a building that we soon learn is some kind of a lab where a man is a genetic engineer, as they are called. He creates eyes for androids. So basically he is a subcontractor for the Tyrell company. Roy starts to speak in some kind of poetic quote and starts scaring the shit of a scientist that works there, while Leon shows that he is basically immune to elements. He puts his hand into some vat of cold liquid that seems like, I don't know, liquid nitrogen or something like that. The scientist realizes that they are replicants. He is like, oh my god, guys, I made your eyes. And they are, how do we get to Mr. Tyrell? And he is like, oh my god, I don't know. I just supply the eyes. And Roy is like, well, who can get us to Mr. Tyrell? And the scientist is like, oh my god, I cannot take you there. I don't know how to get to him. You need to find J.F. Sebastian. And the scene ends. Meanwhile, Deckard wakes up to a daydream of a unicorn. That is perhaps one of the most contentious scenes as to its interpretation in the whole movie, and we'll get there when we'll get there. Deckard starts investigation. He and Gaff go to an apartment that Leon Kowalski said he lives at during the interview at the very beginning of the movie. He finds some kind of a scale in a bathtub. After the scene of unicorn dream, takes some kind of a photo, a printed photo, and puts it in some kind of a machine. And here comes very funny scene that has been ridiculed by many, but to me it just showcases some kind of a futuristic vision of technology that doesn't really work. There will be also later talk of some scientific jargon that doesn't really make sense either. But what you need to know is that in this scene, he puts this physical photo into the machine and he says, computer, enhance. And the computer enhances and zooms in on the photo, and it has great quality as if it was digital and as if it could see the photo, the physical photo, in greater resolution than it truly is. He finds out within the photo a face of a woman. We will soon find out it is Zora. Rachel comes to his place and is like, I know you think I'm a replicant, but I'm not. Look, here's a photo of me and my mother, and I have some great memories of my childhood. And Deckard is like, oh yeah, this childhood memory that you've never told anyone about? This one? And he tells her. So apparently Tyrell told him, or maybe some documents told him, as if documents could speak. He learned her memories, and he tells her those memories, and she's like, well, fuck. And he's like, haha, I was just joking, don't freak out in my apartment. Do you want a drink? Because as he is alcoholic, the only thing he thinks of to make her feel better is to offer her some alcohol. But she runs out, and the scene ends. Deckard goes to like a market. He asks random vendor on the street if he knows where this scale he found in Leon's apartment came from. And the random vendor has some expert microscope just standing on the bar, and he tells him that this scale was created by a guy named Abdul Ben Hassan, who is apparently Egyptian, if I remember correctly. He appears in one scene, he is not important. Deckard goes to him and asks him who did he sell this animal to, the animal whose scale was found in Leon's apartment. We learn that it was a snake. Hassan, as soon as he is pushed, he rats out who his customer is. And it is a guy named Taffy Lewis. Taffy Lewis is not important. He appears in one scene. But Deckard goes to Taffy Lewis's like a club, and he's like, hey, Taffy Lewis, did you buy a snake lately? And Taffy Lewis is like, I don't need to speak to you. And Deckard is like, do you have a license for this place? I'm the police. And Taffy Lewis is like, hey barman, this guy needs a drink. And Deckard, because he's an alcoholic, takes this offer and starts drinking. But he also learned that Taffy Lewis buys a lot of snakes, apparently. And he gets drunk, Deckard, that is. He goes on video call with Rachel. I don't know where he found her number, because it doesn't appear like she told it to him. Perhaps he got it from some police documentation. I don't know. Deckard is a weird guy. And here is another example of fantastic retro futurism, because he goes on a FaceTime with her, but he does that through a phone booth, like a standing phone booth, like used to exist, which is very fun. And he tells Rachel, hey, I'm at the club, wanna join me? She's like, what? No. And ends the call. So Deckard continues doing his job instead of trying to get with Rachel, and he soon finds out that there are dancers in Taffy Lewis's club that dance with animals. And one of them is Zora. He acts like really weird in the scene. He's like, hey, I am from humanitarian organization, and I came here to check if you are not exploited. And he gets in to her room, and she's like, okay, whatever, I don't care. And perhaps this scene exists so we can look at her naked boobs. And I don't really know what Deckard's plan is here, because he sees the snake, he learns from Zora that it is artificial snake, so perhaps he could make some tests to compare whether this scale came from that snake or similar snake, but this would give Zora time to relocate or something, so maybe he should capture her, retire her. He, for some reason, just keeps the act up, and Zora just does not seem to give a damn that he is there, until she finally punches him in his throat so hard that he almost fucking dies.
I love the kind of woman that will actually just kill me.
If you remember, Zora, of those 4 replicants that are still alive, is the one that was designed to be an assassin. And Deckard does not seem to have any chance against her. But for some reason, some co-worker of Zora comes into her room, and Zora is somehow frightened, afraid, I don't know. She could have killed Deckard right there, but she decides to run away. And as she's running, we have perhaps the slowest and laziest chase scene ever, because she runs out on the streets. There is like a lot of people on the street, and Deckard starts looking for her. She should have been able to escape easily in such a crowd. It takes Deckard a lot of time to find her, but he somehow finds her by some kind of a miracle, and he starts shooting at her. She runs through a ridiculous amount of glass panels, like windows. She goes through one, then another, she gets shot. She runs through another and another until Deckard finally kills her. Oh, I'm sorry, he retires her, and she is dead. Automatically, police comes over. He says, "Hey guys, I am Blade Runner. I just retired this android." And Bryant appears and tells him, well, there's still 4 more to go. And Deckard is like, I've just retired this one. Shouldn't there be 3 left? And he tells Deckard, no, you see, because Rachel, the girl from Tyrell, escaped. And police car flies away. I don't know if I mentioned it. There are flying cars in this movie. They fly away just to reveal Rachel standing like 50 feet behind that car, which is very funny. And she just sees Deckard and walks away. Deckard is like, all right, let me get home. But no, he cannot go home because Leon, the first replicant we've met, appears there and tries to kill Deckard. He absolutely smashes him. Deckard is a total loser in a fight. Like, I understand Leon is designed for pure physical strength, but Deckard is supposed to be this incredible Blade Runner, this android hunter. And he got first android because she started running away from him instead of finishing him off. And the second android he meets just bashes his head in. And it's incredibly funny, this scene, because Leon tries again and again to speak one-liners and none of them land. But still, we learn that Leon was created in, I think, 2017. So he is 2 years old. How does Deckard get out of this situation? Well, he does not. Simply, Rachel appears. She grabs the gun that Deckard had, but has been thrown away by Kowalski, and she shoots Kowalski in the back of his head, and he dies. So, second android, Deckard, tries to kill. Again, he does it by chance alone. Because Deckard is a loser. He's a weakling. He is also not very smart. So, Deckard and Rachel, those two, go to his apartment where he drinks because he's an alcoholic. I don't know why I keep repeating it. I don't mean to make fun of alcoholics. I just find it quite funny that he, I think, was created to be this badass noir detective, and he's just a lame loser alcoholic. Well, it happens. Rachel feels bad because she just killed a replicant after she just learned she is a replicant, and she talks with Deckard about how it feels to kill a person. She then asks him if she tried to escape, would he go after her to hunt her down and retire her? And he says no, because she saved him, but somebody else would, another Blade Runner, would take his spot and go after her. And we have a very interesting scene from Rachel that is destroyed because Deckard is stupid and lame. Because Rachel asks Deckard if he ever thought of a possibility that he himself is an android, while Deckard does not answer because he drank so much that he fell asleep because he's an alcoholic. So we could have had a very interesting scene that could imply something, but director Ridley Scott very cleverly escapes this question while also making Deckard look like he does not have his shit together whatsoever. Meanwhile, we meet Pris, and Pris is the one android that we have not met yet of those four. Pris seems to be doing quite bad. She walks around without like a plan or something. She decides to sleep. She just covers herself with trash and decides, yeah, that is the best spot to spend the night. But a man appears that lives just next door to this trash can that she decided to lay in. They both scare each other. He is kind of like a shy introvert nerd that does not know how to speak to a woman, and he is very clearly, from the first sight of her, infatuated with her. And she, Pris, what was the word? Like, girl boss, gaslighter, manipulator. And she's like, oh, maybe I could get to your apartment with you and something. And we learn that this guy is none other than J.F. Sebastian. This is J.F. Sebastian, the guy Roy was looking for. We also have very fun way of showing that this world is not doing good even for humans, because J.F. Sebastian lives as the only tenant in like a whole block, and he has this apartment complex, this whole ass big block all to himself. He has an apartment there. We learn that he is an absolute weirdo. Like, he is very clearly like a shy person. He is very obviously lonely, and on some level I feel for him, but the way he deals with it is because he is a genetic engineer as well. He is a subcontractor of Tyrell Company. He makes himself friends. He makes like living toys that live within his apartment. They are the creepiest part of this movie. And because some seem like goofy little guys, but then you see others and they seem to be in terrified, enslaved capture because he made them. There is specifically one that is looking like he wants to die. But besides that, Pris tells him that she has nowhere to go, so she stays at his place. She basically invites herself to live with him, and she tells him that she will contact her friends. Meanwhile, this guy and this gal continue their conversation. Deckard wakes up from his alcoholic slumber, from his blackout. Meanwhile, Rachel is playing a piano. She has like a very intense emotional moment because she doesn't know if she is the one that knows how to play the piano or if she is just using talents of somebody else whose memory she possesses. She has whole ass existential crisis. Meanwhile, Deckard is like, bleh, bleh. And and he tries to kiss her. She's like, I'm done with this guy. I'm running away from his apartment. And the next scene is very interesting on some level. When I was a teen and I watched this movie, I was already aware of how this scene looks like, but I had some idea that maybe this trying to tell us something deeper, but I am not sure at this moment because Rachel, a person who basically knows nobody besides Deckard, she does not know what to do with her life. She goes through existential crisis. She doesn't know if she is a real person, and she just murdered somebody. She wants to walk out. She wants to escape. She wants to run away without a care. Meanwhile, Deckard, an alcoholic who killed many androids or retired them, now has to deal with the fact that he fell in love with one. And I understand that her choice to live is hers to make. But also, would you let somebody go if you would expect them to just, I don't know, die if they went out? If this scene ended here, it would be fine, or if it went in a different direction. But no, Deckard just grabs Rachel, shoves her into the wall, and starts kissing her. And what the fuck are you doing? If you ever try to kiss a girl and her reaction is to get out of your apartment, maybe don't push her into the wall and kiss her again. He is lame as fuck once again. But then he says, "Now you kiss me." This is just my weird interpretation of it, but I always understood it as him trying to show her that she too is capable of emotions, of feelings. Now you kiss me, show me and show yourself that you are fully human and capable of love. Because I always thought that maybe Deckard heard her question. Maybe he too suspects himself to be a replicant at this moment. But as I rewatched it, I think he's too fucking stupid for that. So there's that. Also, one more thing against this scene, because in the next scene, Roy Batty comes to JF Sebastian's apartment. He meets Chris and immediately goes in to kiss her. So we have two androids, two replicants, who by their own will express love and affection and desire towards each other. So the previous scene with Deckard and Rachel just loses all the meaning I wished it had, because now that it does not have this meaning, it's just a scene of an assault, basically. But don't worry, Rachel will get Stockholm Syndrome and she will be into Deckard. I also said that he probably killed many replicants, but we've only seen him kill one so far. So, Chris, Roy, and JF Sebastian have a breakfast. They start talking, and JF Sebastian has chessboard, and Roy asks him who is he playing against, and we find out that JF Sebastian plays against Tyrell, his long-term game of chess. And Roy is like, right, you're JF Sebastian. You are the guy I was hoping to meet, because you can lead me to Tyrell. And meanwhile, JF Sebastian is like, so, what generation are you? And they are like, we are Nexus 6. So, JF Sebastian is able to recognize who is android, who is not, without any test, simply because, as he states, they are so perfect. Because, by the way, JF Sebastian is the guy with this genetic condition that makes him look older than he is, or maybe it makes him age faster. He is supposed to be 25, but he looks like he is, I don't know, older. And so Roy asks him, can you get me to Tyrell? Because something, and JF Sebastian is like, I don't know, guys. And then Priest hugs him from behind, and he has no game, same, but he is a simp. So as soon as Priest touches him, gives him a hug from behind, he is like, sure. So JF Sebastian and Roy go to the main building of Tyrell Corporation, where apparently Tyrell lives. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this building is gigantic, monumental pyramid. I wanted to say pyramid. And so and they go on an elevator, but it's late at night, so Tyrell does not just let him get into his apartment. So he asks, "What do you want at this hour?" And JF Sebastian is like, this move on a chessboard. And the Tyrell speaks like, what? This is such a dumb move. And next, Roy, who is with Sebastian in this elevator, tells him what move to make. Sebastian says it, it's checkmate. So Tyrell is somehow so impressed that he's like, alright, get in. They get to his apartment, to his room. Tyrell sees Roy, and he immediately knows that he is an android. So we have a second person that can immediately recognize that somebody is an android. However, in this situation, Tyrell, would probably know that Roy is one of the escaped replicants. So maybe he just recognized him. It isn't really explained in here. And Roy is like, well, hello, father. And here we have a very interesting thing, because Tyrell speaks to Roy kind of like an equal. Roy tells him he's the father and asks him if there is any possibility to prolong his life, because, as I have mentioned previously, androids live only for 4 years. And Roy and his team of replicants came to Earth to find a way to prolong their lives. And he speaks with Tyrell of possibilities of what could be done to make them live longer. And Tyrell is perfectly sure it is not possible, that once an android is made with this 4-year count, there is no option to prolong their life. And Tyrell is such an interesting guy because he clearly likes Roy. He likes his own invention, his creation. He is a little god that can create life. And even when Roy expresses that he feels bad because to get to Earth, he and other replicants had to kill quite a lot of people. But Tyrell is unbothered with it and basically tells Roy that he should, live life fully, even though he has such a short time to live. And Tyrell, he has some compassion towards androids, but not enough to make them fully human. He creates people to be slaves. And even though he might be proud of his creations, he still does not care enough to make them live longer than just 4 years. Because they are created like empty vessels of human beings. But as time goes on, they expand. They learn to feel emotions. They become more human as time goes on. And Tyrell, however reasonable he is, he creates them to be miserable. And like, not to become analyzing evil here, but that is such a strange thing, to be proud of your creation, but not enough to make your creation something that he could have done. Without a doubt, he could have created androids or replicants that lived longer, fuller, happier lives. But he is a creator of a grand corporation, and he is pushed forward by profit. And so to have a product to sell that people want to buy, he shortens the lifespan of those beings just 4 years, which first makes demand much higher for androids. If they live only 4 years, then after 4 years you have to buy a new one. And secondly, if they only have 4 years of life, they probably won't cause that much trouble to people, because they have max 4 years of experience of life. And as he tells Roy, and remember him, because I will compare him to the main bad guy in the second movie, who is just ridiculous and stupid and meaningless. So he tells Roy that, a light that burns twice as fast burns twice as something. Yes, this is how this saying goes. He tells it to Roy. He tells him he should live his life to the fullest. So Roy makes a mountain special, Game of Thrones mountain special on his ass. He grabs his head, he gouges his eyes out, and he kills him this way. And now he makes a very strange decision, because he says, "I'm sorry, Sebastian," and he goes after Sebastian and kills him too. And he also leaves Sebastian's body there, I think, because next we know Deckard learns that Tyrell was killed, and also learns that JF Sebastian was killed. So also I missed one scene. Pris was the one to say, "I think, therefore I am." So there's that. Deckard, the stupid idiot asshole he is, randomly just gets info that he should check out JF Sebastian's apartment, and he does so. Also, I didn't mention it, but Pris, when she invites herself to live with JF Sebastian, she does some kind of makeup that makes her look like JF Sebastian's toy creations, those little beings that are perhaps sentient, perhaps not. They look horrified that they exist. Because she is a female manipulator, but also for reasons of the next scene. Because Deckard arrives at JF Sebastian's apartment, and she, Pris, hides herself amongst in those J.F. Sebastian's creations, his friends, and she has like a bright veil over her head, and Deckard takes it off, and she looks at her because she looks like a real human being, at which point she attacks him. And she is like a gymnast, and she immediately overpowers Deckard, and she starts crushing his head with her thighs. It should have been me, but Deckard once again is absolutely not fit for the job he is doing, and the only reason why he is able to get Pris is because she lets him go. She like runs away to the other end of the apartment, and she starts doing somersaults towards him, which is extremely funny, and he shoots her, and it stops being funny immediately. She like crashes out in pain, and depending on what mood you are in, it is either horrifying or very funny. But she dies. He finishes her off. So the second android he kills is the second female android there is. Then Roy Batty arrives, and he is not happy that Deckard just killed Pris. He is apparently aware of Deckard, and he does something that I really like, because this is a thing I've been thinking about perhaps too much, that if I ever was in some kind of horror scenario where I am haunted, I think the best action to take would be to assert yourself and to start hunting the hunter. And this is exactly what he does. He becomes the hunter, and Deckard becomes the prey. And Roy is, as any other replicant, he's much better at everything than Deckard, perhaps because Deckard is bad at everything. So Deckard tries to shoot him, and Roy simply does not let him kill him so easily. So we have amazing scene where Deckard is like hiding behind a wall, and Roy is on the other side of the wall, and he's like, yeah, come on, shoot me, shoot straight through the wall, get me. And then Roy simply punches through the wall, grabs Deckard's hand in which he held his pistol, and he is like, all right, this one is for Zora. And he breaks his finger, and he says, this one is for Pris. And he breaks his second finger. And then he lets Deckard go, because apparently he does not give a fuck about Kowalski and the fact that he also died because of Deckard. So I guess Roy only cares for the girls. Roy basically starts speaking in kind of like a kid's rhyme. So he says like 4, 5, something, something. And because of that, in movie from 1982, we have Roy Batty speaking 6, 7. 6, 7, go to hell, go to heaven. And as we all know, Roy Batty went to hell and is now stuck in DM archive. So Deckard starts running away. He does not have his gun anymore. He has 2 broken fingers. And Roy does something so incredibly funny, because he just undresses down to his undies and he starts howling like a wolf. He goes full on werewolf mode, and it's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's give him some grace. He knows he will die soon, and we know it because of a scene that comes up shortly after. So Deckard, without a gun, gets like a pipe and tries to hit Roy with it. He goes and strikes him full on his head with a metal pipe that should be quite deadly, but Roy just shrugs it off. So Deckard starts climbing up this building, he like fixes his fingers, and he goes to the roof. Meanwhile, Roy starts to die. Not because of Deckard's actions, but because of Tyrell. Because he only has 4 years to live. And his time simply comes for him in this moment. His hand cramps up like he's a dead spider, and he tells himself, not yet, just a little bit longer. And he, with his still working hand, grabs a nail out of this building, just pulls it out with his hands, and he pushes this nail into his dying hand and regains control over it, which is pretty badass for somebody who is howling in his underwear. He gets on the rooftop where Deckard is. Deckard tries to run away, jump over the gap between buildings, but he fails because Deckard is once again a loser and he cannot do anything right. So he's holding on to this building, basically almost falling to his death. Roy jumps after him. He obviously makes the jump, so he stands over Deckard, but not before. He uses his ultimate and he pulls a white pigeon out of his ass. So for whatever reason, he now holds a white pigeon in his hand. Well, for reasons of some kind of dramatic metaphor, but still, I do believe that he pulled it out of his ass. He stands over Deckard as he struggles and almost falls to his death. He actually says something that I think about quite often, because in Dune we hear that fear is the mind killer, but here from Roy we hear that to live in fear is to be a slave, because he sees Deckard struggling, knowing that he will soon slip, that he will soon die. He sees fear in Deckard's eyes, and he simply stands over him until Deckard, without any intervention from Roy, slips and starts to fall to his death. And yet, Roy, at the last possible moment, catches his hand as he is falling and brings him back to the rooftop. He does not kill Deckard. He simply talks to him as he is dying. Perhaps being the first person in this story that does something simply good without any bad coming with it. Like Rachel saved Deckard, but she did it by killing Kowalski. Here, Roy Batty saves Deckard simply to save him. Even though he was hunting him, he could have killed him probably much faster, could have let him die. But he shows empathy that is absent in this world. And he speaks his famous words about what he saw of world and all those memories that will disappear like tears in the rain as rain falls. And he simply dies there as he was designed to do, not before proving that he was truly human. White pigeon released from his hand flies out into the sky. And immediately after Roy dies, Gaff appears. Gaff, the cool guy who does origami. So he was probably watching Deckard all of this time, but did not help him, because why would him? Why would him? Why would he? So he flies with his car to the rooftop, walking with his cool-ass cane, and says to Deckard, well, it is done. You've done a man's job. And something. Basically, Deckard can now retire and go on to live, which is very funny because retire means murder in this world. So Deckard comes back to his apartment, to Rachel. She's sleeping with blanket over her head. She looks like, you know how when people are dead and they are covered from head to toe. She looks kind of like that. So Deckard reveals her face and is so happy that she's still alive, and they proclaim their love to each other and decide to run away together to a happy ending. And the final scene is them leaving the apartment. But as they leave, Deckard spots something on the ground. And it is origami unicorn. End of the story. Absolute cinema. So, this is basically the story of the first Blade Runner movie, the original movie. And when the second movie came out, for some reason, they decided to bring Deckard back. Maybe it's just fan service. Maybe they wanted to have Harrison Ford in this movie. But when the second movie came out, there were some voices, like myself, that said, well, this is ridiculous, because Deckard in this story is so heavily implied to be a replicant, to be android. And like the most obvious scene is that he dreams, like dreams, not dreams. He's daydreaming about this unicorn shortly after visiting Tyrell Corporation. And then at the very end, Gaff leaves an origami unicorn for him to find out what could be a clearer sign that he too is an android. Also, as I said in the beginning, basically every major human character in this story has some kind of disability, or there is something bad that happened to him, to them. Gaff has his walking cane and fucked up eye. Tyrell wears enormous nerd glasses, and JF Sebastian has this genetic disease. And we are told by Sebastian that he knows that Roy and Pris are replicants because they are so perfect. What other character in this story has no disability or anything wrong with them? Well, it's Deckard, besides the fact that he's an alcoholic. Like, there are like minor characters that are humans within this story that don't have disabilities, seemingly. But I think this argument after argument that we can pull on leads us into direction that Deckard is a replicant. Why else would there be this unicorn scene within this movie? But for some reason, this opinion... My mic died, but back to the point. For some reason, this opinion, this theory, just a movie theory, a replicant theory, made people so angry that they started saying like, this is shit. Obviously, Deckard is a human. What does the unicorn mean? Well, I don't know, but surely not that he is a replicant. So basically, nobody could explain what the unicorn means besides the fact that it means he's a replicant. Nobody was believing that he was a replicant. Like, the only two reasons I think somebody would think that Deckard is a human was, first, because he is so pathetic in comparison to replicants, or second, because of Book Deckard. And Book Deckard might be replicant, might not be replicant, who knows. We are told in the book that he took Voigtkampf test, but we are not shown it on pages. So, whatever. Book Deckard also has a wife. Movie Deckard does not have a wife. They are different people. Those are different stories. So, I truly believe that movie Deckard was a replicant. And so, when the second movie came out and Deckard is there, it means that the continuity is quite broken. Like, even if you feel like it's quite ambiguous in the first movie whether Deckard is or isn't a replicant, it is something fun to think about. While the second movie basically retroactively makes the first movie kind of worse. That was Blade Runner number 1. Now, Blade Runner number 2. I do not have a poster for Blade Runner number 2. Alright, I've decided that I am not done yet. Because even if Ridley Scott, the director of the first Blade Runner movie, came out and told me that Deckard was clearly a human, I would still not believe him. I would still stand my ground that he is a replicant. Because I made him out to be this very stupid dummy dum-dum, and he is that. But there are some points in this story where he seems to have some greater internal life. Like, after Rachel shows him a photo from her childhood, after he tells her that those memories were manufactured by Tyrell Company, he has a moment where he looks at a photo from his past, and he does not speak, doesn't say anything, but he clearly thinks about it. Perhaps from a story perspective, there is a reason why he does not answer Rachel when she asks him if he ever thinks if he is himself a replicant. Because it all feels like crumbs that lead to some greater explanation. It's like throughout the movie, we have seeds planted suggesting that he is a replicant. And in this final scene where he finds that Gaff left this little unicorn for him to find, that it falls into place, that we realize that he was throughout this movie a replicant. It also makes his scene at the beginning of the movie with Bryant, where Bryant explains to him what Nexus 6 replicants are, more believable, because this guy does not know what Nexus 6 replicants are, even though he's the best Blade Runner around. And that's because he is one as well. And I will stand my ground on that, even if all of you were to tell me that I am wrong. So yes, even though he appears in the second movie, I truly think that director of the second movie is wrong, because Deckard should not be there. Anyways, let's start talking about 2017 movie Blade Runner 2049. It had quite an impact in culture, popular culture, and meme culture. Maybe it created, and if not, it popularized an idea of typical, stereotypical male fantasy of bleed out spot. I cannot count how many times I've heard Ana de Armas tell me, "You look lonely, I can fix that." And it seems that it had some impact, some influence on popular culture, but I still think that even though it is a beautiful movie, beautifully shot, it is a worse movie than the first one. It's still good. It's just worse than the first one, even though it lacks such scenes as Roy Batty going werewolf mode. And it has some interesting things going on for it. It doesn't make sense as a sequel. So, in the book, original Philip K. Dick book, there is a subplot in which Rick Deckard finds out that there exists another police department in which everybody is a replicant, and he has this conversation with police officer Blade Runner, who believes himself to be a Blade Runner when in fact he is a replicant. And I think this little subplot from the book became origin story of Blade Runner 2049, so the second Blade Runner movie. Okay, I actually have to stand up for this. So, I've been giving the second movie, Blade Runner 2049, a lot of shit, but it is still a good movie on its own. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but we are not here for that. I do not have a poster for the second movie, for the sequel, but just imagine the most generic, mass-produced, basic-ass poster with faces of characters in kind of a pyramid shape. So, I did not speak on it at the beginning of the first movie, but there was actually some kind of introduction in writing, kind of like you see in Star Wars, but shorter. So we get the same at the beginning of the second movie, before we meet any of our characters. So, remember, this movie took place in 2019. We learn from opening of the second movie that the ecological collapse happened in mid 2020s. So after this movie, which does not make any sense at all, but whatever, who cares about continuity, right? Because in this movie, we have people that are all kind of fucked up. The world is empty. There is not much humans, as we see in JF Sebastian's apartment. There is basically no animals that are alive. Every animal that we see on the screen actually is not a real live being, although this is a contentious thing to say when we take in count the fact that this story is about being real even if you are not born. So the second movie states that what happens in this movie is before the ecological collapse. Why? Because they need some excuse to introduce a character. Why they have to do that? They don't. They full on don't have to do that. They could have changed this character's backstory basically to have continuity, but no, they decided to go this way for some reason. But we learn that in the second movie, or rather before the first and second movie, there was ecological collapse, which is bullshit, and that the company, what was his name? Tyrell. Tyrell company collapsed because androids or replicants were banned, were illegal to create. So they bankrupted. Then ecological collapse happened. And after that, there was a guy called Wallace who was like really good with bioengineering, and he saved humanity from starvation. And he bought up what was left from Tyrell's corporation, and he started producing androids again. We do not have any information when this happened to be legal again. So I have no info on that, but they are supposedly the kind of android that will not ever rebel or go against instructions. We also learn that Blade Runners still exist because there is something called, what was it? Gen 8, Nexus 8 android, Nexus 8 replicant that was created still in Tyrell Corporation that have basically like open-ended lifespans. So they don't have a 4-year lifespan. So Blade Runners hunt them, and this is not told in the introduction, but we later learn that Gen 8 existed in 2021. So 2 years after this movie, which had Gen 6, Nexus 6 replicants, there are already Nexus 8 replicants who do not have the 4-year lifespan. And that is 2 years after the genius inventor, Tyrell himself, was killed by a replicant. So, does it make any sense? If not, you are following. So, we open the scene to the world of Blade Runner that is again taking place in Los Angeles. So, we meet a farmer called what was he called? Supper, I guess. And we are introduced to our main character, whose name is K, or his serial number is K. We very shortly after learn that he is a replicant and a Blade Runner at the same time. He goes in to meet this replicant, this sapper that has been hiding as a farmer, giving nobody any problems, and he's there to kill him or to capture him. He speaks of it, but sapper is like, well, no, I will not get myself captured so easily. And they talk about garlic, and they do some kind of a world building where we learn that the main protein that humanity has comes from some kind of larvae, some kind of, I don't know, bugs, I guess. They are like, okay, and then Supper is like, okay, I'm gonna kill you, K. And K is like, no, I'm gonna kill you. And to his credit, he is the first Blade Runner in this series that we meet that actually can hold himself in a fight and is not immediately killed or almost killed by an android. This is the strongest argument for Deckard being human, because he's such a weak, pathetic little guy. K almost kills Sapper, but Sapper is like, how do you feel killing your own kin? And K is like, well, I did not rebel, I did not fuck up my life. And Sapper is like, that's because you have not seen a miracle. Unfortunately, this will be important for the story. And this talk about a miracle, that I guess it's an important part of the story, so we have to take it into account. And Sapper rushes for K kills him, end of the scene. K extracts his eyeball, because now those newer generations of replicants have like a code under their eye, so they can be easily recognized. So he takes out his eyeball, he takes it back to his car, and he starts speaking to his like police chief. So kind of like Bryant was for Deckard, this person is for K. I think her name was, I don't know even. I know she has a name. Let me check it out super quick. Lieutenant Joshi. Nobody ever calls her that, but nobody called Gaff in the first movie. And Lieutenant Joshi is referred to as, if I am correct, no, it's not Miss, is it Mistress? I am not sure. But I will call her Lieutenant Joshi or Joshi. But then Kay realizes that not all is done, because he sees a flower next to a dead tree. And he picks it up, he scans the ground with his drone that can apparently do that. And we find out that there has been some kind of a box hidden below the dead tree. So he goes back into his police department. I think it's called that. It's LAPD, basically. And here we have some kind of a thing they tried to do and they very quickly forget about, and that is racism against replicant, against androids. Because Kay walks through his building and some kind of police officer is like, "Get out of here, skin job," or, or something like that. He calls him that. And then we see Kay, which is literally me and you, so Ryan Gosling. We see him taking some kind of a test. We do not have a name for it, at least in the movie, where he has to basically do reverse of how Voigtkampf test worked. So in Voigtkampf test, we have checking if people's reaction is actually emotional, if they have feelings, normal feelings like humans. Here we have a test that is nameless in the movie that tries to see if you do not have any reactions. Basically, to pass it, you have to be stone cold, emotionless, and so on and so on. So, okay, passes it. He speaks to his lieutenant, I think, Joshi, or maybe he doesn't. Who cares? It is not important at the moment. Maybe it is important, maybe it isn't. I will remember somewhere along the lines. He gets back to his apartment. So he is a replicant that works for the police force as a Blade Runner, which makes sense. If you're going to hunt replicants, use replicants to do it because they are better in every way at fighting than humans. There is again next scene in which there is some kind of racism against replicants. Why is Kay, who is a replicant and whose only function in life is to work as a Blade Runner for LAPD, living in some random ass apartment full of regular people? I don't know, but they are racist towards him. Don't worry, they will disappear, and whenever he will be going to his apartment next, we will not see anything. So it does not matter. But when he gets to his apartment, he glues himself. Oh yes, that's what he was talking about with Joshi, or Yoshi, if you like, with Yoshi, that she will not pay for his wounds. So he's like, okay, I will glue them back up. And he does. He glues his wounds back up with glue. But as he does that, as he prepares his dinner, he starts speaking to some kind of a woman that we do not see. She tells him that she wants a drink with him. So he pours 2 drinks and drinks them both. That is a reference to Rick Deckard being an alcoholic. And soon we find out that he is speaking to Joy. Joy, played by Ana de Armas, is kind of an AI girlfriend. My AI girlfriend by JPEG Mafia starts playing, and and they have a little cute talk. We will get back to Joy a little more shortly when we get to her. She is an interesting character. She explores some actually interesting themes within this movie, as opposed to most of it. So, he gives her something called, where have I lost it? Emanator. He gives her as a gift an emanator, because she basically is connected to this machine that projects her image from the ceiling, and he buys an emanator that will allow her to basically go out with him wherever. Because what to buy your AI girlfriend? Of course, a product from a corporation that made her. There, then there is a really funny scene in which he starts using this emanator, and as she disappears from the main projector, there is a logo of Wallace company. So Wallace is the guy that acts as Tyrell did in the first movie, but worse. So I will not stop shitting on this. I am sorry. I like the second movie a lot. They go out in the rain. So Joy is like, wow, that's so fun. And she tells Kay some kind of nice thing that you would hear in a relation. I don't remember if it's I love you or something like that. And you don't have to say that, because he knows she's AI and programmed to speak to him in such manner. And she's like, whatever, and leans in as if she could kiss him. And then she crashes. And because he gets a call. And apparently his emanator is not a distinct device that is only one purpose for her, for Joy. It's also his phone now. Why? No idea. Well, maybe it's because it starts to show us that she is just a program. Basically, is she, isn't she? Whatever you think is right, I guess. So, he gets a call from Yoshi, because I will call her that. He gets a call from Yoshi that like a digging team dug up this box that was under the dead tree in Sapper's farm, and they found bones, meaning that it was some kind of a burial site that they just dug out. He comes into the headquarters and they do some kind of forensic stuff. They find out that she, because that person, the bones of that person was a woman, and that she gave birth and probably died giving birth. Then they talk about what could have happened with the child, and because there was a possibility that there was C-section or something. And one of the forensic guys is like, well, Sapper was a replicant, maybe he ate it. I find it so funny how hardcore racist dehumanizing people are at the beginning of this story. But from now on, there will be no talk of it at all besides Yoshi. Besides what Yoshi says. But we will not hear anymore, because if they kept it up, they would have to do something interesting with it, and apparently they had no idea how to do it. Forensic guys are bad at their job, so Kay has to step up to show us he's the main character, and he's like, computer, expand this image, and they find out that this person this woman that gave birth was a replicant. Wow! Surprise, surprise. Everybody's like, well, that cannot be. Replicants can't reproduce naturally. And Yoshi goes on a kind of a tirade that nobody can know. If somebody knows, there will be war, there will be upheaval, there will be end of civilization, because now we are so racist that if androids were actually human, then we would kill each other. So I hate this. I hate this plot point so much. Not because Yoshi is stupid, although she is, but because maybe I should call her Joshi, because Yoshi is not stupid. Yoshi is cute. So Joshi is stupid. But this idea, this implanted here and will be repeated by others later, that what makes replicants, what makes androids human, in this case, is ability to have children, or ability to be born. And it undercuts the first movie so fucking hard. It is foul, red card, immediately get off the, what is it called, field. Get off the field. Because what do you mean? We spent the whole first movie talking about the fact that even if you are not born, even if you don't have parents, even if you were made in a lab and you have such a short lifespan and nobody believes that you are truly human, that there is something you think you are capable of empathy, that's what makes us human. But in the second movie, everybody believes, I will stand here and point at the blank wall. I just decided. But in the second movie, everybody is like, oh, if you can have children, you are human. If you are born naturally, that means you are human. What are we doing here? Why are we still here? Just to watch Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas. Let's be for real. Joshi, goes on this tirade. She tells Kay that he needs to find the child, kill the child, destroy all evidence, because she thinks the world will end if this information will come out to light, which is dumb. So Kay goes to Wallace Corporation, and the headquarters of Wallace Corporation are in the building that was headquarters of Tyrell. So he walks in, he talks to some kind of a clerk, and he asks about this specific serial number of a replicant. Then we find out there was some kind of an event that was called a blackout that erased basically all electronic memory. And so from like 10 years ago back, there is no electronic records, only paper ones, or, as we will shortly see, glass panel ones. And those are cool. They look like an old scientific thing that they used to record scientific developments. So it's cool. And we learn that when this code, this ID of a replicant is put into the system to find her, the clerk Leclerc shows Kay the record. He does not learn much from it, but then Love appears, and Love is like, well, I was sent by Mr. Wallace to speak to you and something. And she shows Kay a bigger record of like things past. That. And so we are delighted to see that they used actually a scene from this Blade Runner, from original one, the scene in which Deckard and Rachel, those two, are doing the Voidkampf test on Rachel. So we hear the sounds from original movie and we see Rachel's eye. We learn that the person who died and birthed a child was Rachel, and she's dead. She died. Well, we will shortly learn at what time. So Kay tries to speak to Love. She's like, okay, damas. And Kay leaves. So next, Kay goes back to Supper's farm. He finds that one of the keys in a piano is stuck like halfway down, and he starts cosplaying piano tuner. He opens up the piano. He finds out a box that was stuck there that was stopping this key from working. And so he finds out that inside there is a sock and there is a photo. And the photo we do not know yet, but we will learn that it shows us Fraser and the child. We do not know who Fraser is yet, and the movie does not yet tell us about it, but whatever. So he then burns the farm down, destroys everything, just so we can get this one shot of a cool guy not looking back at the fire. But he was told to destroy everything, every piece of evidence. He comes to this dead tree. He uncovers some dirt from base of the tree, base of the trunk, and there we have a date, 6/10/21, and immediately this must be the date of birth of the child and of death of Rachel. So we know that Rachel lived for, well, we don't know actually when she was born, but she died in 21. So 2 years after she met Deckard, approximately. I don't know what month the first movie takes place in. So we know that Kay knows about Rachel, so he goes and meets Gaff. And Gaff is my guy. We all love Gaff here. And I realized while rewatching the second movie that I was constantly talking about Gaff having fucked up eye, but he doesn't. And I had to go back and look at the first movie, and he doesn't. So it was just a trick of the light. Delightful delight. And here is a scene that infuriates me because it's targeted specifically against me, because Kay talks to Gaff. Gaff lives in like a home for elderly people and does not have his cane or his drip, which is unfortunate. But he tells Kay that Deckard was always kind of a lone wolf, so he has no idea where Deckard could be. And yet, there is another thing interesting in here, because he tells Kay that he was Deckard's partner, which never registered for me in the first movie. But I guess it kind of makes sense, because he was in Leon Kowalski's house with Deckard, and they flew their car together like once. But I always thought of Gaff as some kind of mystery man that works for the police, but is not specified what he does. But maybe I am wrong on that. I will give you that. So Gaff tells Kay that he was suspecting that Deckard would be dead, and Kay asks him why, and Gaff tells him that he was not long for this world, and he had something about his eyes. And it's like Gaff is the one that left the unicorn for Deckard to find. He is instrumental for seeing Deckard as a replicant. And here he suggests, like, it's true. He speaks to it. And why would you do this to me? Why are you suggesting this? Just to undercut this thing again. Like, Denis Villeneuve, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, the guy who made the second Blade Runner, must be aware that this theory floats around, that Deckard is a replicant. And he speaks to that here, and yet he later decides, for some kind of a shock factor, to bring Deckard back. We'll get there, I guess. Kay flies away, and one cool thing that I did not mention before, in the first movie, when Deckard is flying with his car, there is some kind of, I don't know if it's radio or some kind of intercom that speaks in German. And in the second movie, when Kay flies his car around, there is very similar scene, but they speak Russian, I think. So, and this is kind of a fun connection between the first movie and the second. Also, some like neon signs are similar, so there is some kind of visual continuity at least. Kay gets back to Joshi. I think he was referring to her as Madame, not as mistress. He gets back to Yoshi, and he hands her the sock, and he hands her some photos he made. I am not actually sure, and I don't think it's true that he gives her the photo of Fraser and the kid. Because when he actually saw the date on the tree, he got a flashback to some kind of a memory. We do not know much about it yet, but we will learn soon. So she again says, "This is the most important mission on the world. If anybody finds out that androids can have children, the world ends. Nobody is alive." So I perhaps went too far with one plot and forgot about the second, because it's stupid. So you remember when Kay was at Wallace, and the Wallace Corporation, and he left. And when he left, actually, Love, so the replicant that showed him the recording of Voigtkamp's test of Rachel, went to Wallace to talk to him. And Wallace is, as I said, kind of like Tyrell in the original, but worse. So we fortunately meet Wallace. And Wallace kind of has a fun design because he does not have eyes. Instead, he has cameras in his eyes, and he can like connect to drones and see from many more eyes than he could normally. He's a fun design, fun character. Not. So he speaks to Love, and he wants to conquer the world with androids. Like, he wants to expand his business, but he tries to be smart about it, smart in talking. It doesn't really work for me. He talks about the fact that humanity does not like slavery unless it's replicant slavery. My dude, you are the guy who makes replicants. And he watches like the next generation of replicants, and he gets like one and makes them come to life. And he's like, well, look at you. And there is only one problem with you, because you can't have children. But Tyrell knew how to make androids have children all along. That is not a retcon or anything, because there was no talk about it in the first movie. And then he kills the replicant and kisses her as he does, because remember, children, he is the bad guy. Any nuance that you could find in Tyrell is gone. This is the evil guy. He's like, I'm so angry that we expanded to only 9 new worlds. We need to expand more, and I will kill replicants. But I also want to breed replicants, because my machinery is not fast enough at producing them to supply demand. Like, why is he so angry? Wouldn't prices be higher if demand is greater than supply? No, remember, he's evil. So he tells Love that she needs to find the child, because the child is the secret to Tyrell's great plan on how to make replicants have children. Does Tyrell, the guy who made Rachel and Roy and all the other guys from the first movie, and gave them a 4-year lifespan, strike you as a guy that would be into reproducing them? Like, why would he do that? He was like evil, but he wasn't, but there was no talk that there is a demand greater than supply. If anything, the 4-year lifespan made the demand higher. So they pulled it out of their asses to make this plotline. So now we know Love is on a mission to find the kid, just like Kay is. And we see that Love gets into LAPD and starts stealing the bones. She's a I wanted to reference something, but I forgot what to say. So she's a bone stealing witch. That's what I wanted to reference. And there is like LAPD officer that is like, hey, you cannot steal our bones. And she's like, oh, here, there's documentation. And she just walks behind him and punches him in the head and he dies. Yep. So Joshi is angry that bones were stolen. And she's like, oh no, the world will end if you do not succeed, Kay. Now fuck off and do your job. She's also racist against replicants. So I guess that tracks, at least her character. She may have some subtlety, at least, because she tries to talk to Kay like he's a normal person, but at the same time treats him like a tool. So I guess so. Maybe. So Kay does not have a lead. So he gets into like a computer and he says, computer, show me every single child born in 2021. And computer tells him that he cannot do it. He has to search through them manually. And they apparently have like a genetic code of every single human being born in at least for the area. Which is crazy. It's insane, but it's sci-fi. Maybe somehow they did that. He clicks his pen and joy appears out of it. And they talk while he searches for some anomalies in the birth thingies. So we just look at genetic code and Joy is like, well, 4 letters that make you, and I am made of 2 numbers, digits, I guess. And Kay is like, don't worry, you're hot. And he finds that he finds that there are 2 people with the same exact genetic code. He's like, that's impossible. And one is a guy and the other is a girl. And in the record, the girl died and the guy disappeared. That must mean something. And Joy is like, hey, maybe it's you. You know, remember that flashback that you got when you saw the date, 6/10/21? Remember that whenever you told me about your memories, there was a date 6/10/21 on the bottom of a horse toy, little horsey. And he's like, well, maybe, but who cares? And he finds next lead, which is orphanage, where apparently the kid was. So they go to an orphanage, but actually they go to, what do you call it in English? To like a landfill, place where you store garbage. Because apparently that's where this place was. And they fly over it, they get attacked, shot at with a very cool looking thingy that is like a hook that has some kind of a parachute behind that looks like a bird, and it's struck by lightning apparently, or something like that, or maybe it just is hit with some energy from something. Don't worry about it. And the energy shuts off in the car. Joy disappears. Once again, she is an AI girlfriend. So they crash land in the garbage, and Joy has some energy surge and she's tweaking, which is very funny. And then some garbage bandits attack Kay, and he's overwhelmed. He's one against many, but once again, he's not Deckard, so he actually knows how to fight. But he is helped by a pro Helldivers gamer, which is Love, the replicant who works for Wallace, because she airstrikes them while she gets her nails done. Wow, guys, she's such a girl boss. And she's like, come on, Kay, find the kid so I can find the kid. And Kay walks out, and in this landfill, in this place of trash, for lack of a better word, there is a place where a lot of kids hide, and we learn that it is actually a sweatshop that specializes in some kind of electronic disassembly, I guess. And it is run by a guy called Mr. Cotton, apparently. I don't think this name appears in the movie, but whatever. And Kay is like, well, where is the kid from 30 years ago? And Mr. Cotton is like, I do not keep records that far back. And Kay is like, well, you do, and punches him in the face. And Mr. Cotton does have records from 30 years ago. But, plot twist, the page that was this year, the specific year 21, is ripped. It's gone. And then Kay walks out and he's like, hey, I know this place. And he does know this place because this is the place from his memory. And in that memory, he hid a little wooden horse toy in like an inactive furnace. And he goes in and he finds a wooden horse toy with 6, 10, 21 written at the bottom of it. And he's like, maybe it is my memory. And so he's like, okay, I need to find out if this memory is true. And to do that, I will go to a subcontractor of Wallace. So he does so. And he goes to, what was her name? Dr. Anne Stelline. So here I will pause for a second because I forgot to tell you about it before. So, Blade Runner, number 1 from 1982. There are characters that look different to normal standards of beauty, let's say. There are people who walk with canes, people with glasses, people with genetic illnesses, and it is part of the story. Blade Runner 2, or 2049, from 2017, no such cases. Not really. Everybody is up to standard, let's say, which is very unfortunate. And I tell you that as a little spoiler about Dr. Anne Stelline. He is like, hey, how do I know if a memory is real or false. And she's like, "Oh hey, I'm Dr. Anstelin. Nobody ever visits me here. How can I help you? I am so lonely and bored, and I have this disorder that my immune system does not work, so I cannot go out. I have to be locked up in this sphere. And oh my god, can I talk to you about how I am subcontractor for Wallace and how memories work?" He's like, "Okay, how do I know if a memory is real or fabricated, manufactured?" And remember how Rachel had some memories of somebody else? We learn from Dr. Anstelin that inputting somebody's real memories into replicants is illegal, so she produces them with like a joystick, apparently. And she tells Kay to sit down. He looks into some kind of a visor with some kind of a machine behind him. She's like, "Just think about this memory." And then she's like, "Oh my god, I am crying right now because this memory is real." And here Kay, who throughout the movie was this very emotionless guy, finds out that this memory is real. He does not know if it's his or if it was input from somebody's real memory, but it wouldn't really make sense. Why would somebody input real memories into him, as it's illegal and seemingly meaningless? So he's like, "God damn it, I'm having a crash out right now." And so he walks out and is immediately arrested by LAPD because they observe him constantly. So he gets back to headquarters of the police and he makes this nameless test and he fails, meaning that he is too emotional. He has emotions, so he must die now. And Joshi is like, "What are you doing? I gave you the most important mission of the world, because if you don't succeed, the world will fall apart." And he's like, "It's done. I found the kid, I killed the kid, and it is finished." What proof does he bring? No proof. But remember, Joshi is stupid. So Joshi believes him and is like, "Alright, I will give you 48 hours of life and then you can do the nameless test again. And I guess check if you will be left alive or killed." And I forgot about one important scene from earlier, but as it refers to this scene, I will do so now. So at some point within this story, he was like sitting in the rain at some kind of a little table, and next to this place was a public house of ladies of the night, and some kind of a woman, hooded woman, comes up to ladies of the night and is like, "Go check out this guy and learn what he knows." So they try to infiltrate Kay and find out what he knows about the case of the child. So we have famous scene in which a girl that I think remains nameless in the movie, but apparently her name is Mariette. She's like, "Oh, you don't even smile," and so many memes used it, I guess. Later on, when Kay gets back home, he's like, alright, time to run, I think. Oh no, I think it happened before he found out about the memories, that he gets back home and Joy is there, and Joy, I don't know, she apparently can do stuff on her own and spend money on her own. She gets Mariette to come to his place so that she can synchronize her movements with Mariette, and so that Mariette will be the physical form, while Kay will be looking at Joy. They have sex this way, because what is Blade Runner without some weird sex scene? It actually looks, not the sex scene, but the way that Mariette and Joy combined together looks very cool and gives a lot of character to Joy. But we do not see the sex scene. Instead, it is hard cut to Joy as a product being advertised. And it's like, is she a real person, or she is designed to do everything like a real person? We will not be exploring this any further, because the movie doesn't. Well, I guess it does a little, but it doesn't really work. Later, Mariette puts like a AirTag in Kay's pocket and leaves, and Kay and Joy at the other time. I am mixing up plots, but it's important that this scene happened. Doesn't matter when. That Joy and Kay talk about the possibility that he is the child that was born out of an android, out of a replicant. And Joy is like, yes, I knew you were always special, my special little boy. And now that you are real, because you are born, because this is how we know that somebody is a real person, because they are born. It doesn't matter what the first movie was about. You are born, so now you are a real person, so you deserve a name. And it will be Joe. And she's like, Joe, 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 Joe. And Kay is like, shut the fuck up. So this is how it ends. And the next scene between them is like, after Kay has come back, he lied to Joshi that he killed the kid. He's like, well, time to run. And Joy is like, okay, put me in the pen, put me in the emanator, so that I can go with you and that you will not be compromised by memories that I possess that are stuck in this building. So you must erase me from this building and transfer me fully only to the emanator. And this way I will be mortal, like a real girl. Alright, I don't know why I make fun of Joy now. I'm hating on her. She's an interesting character. I guess I'm frustrated that they did not speak more about her. Kay goes to like a small shop to try to find out if the toy horsey is out of real wood or not. And there he speaks to a guy called Dr. Badger. He's a whole vibe. He will not appear for longer than this one scene. It's just a vibe. I don't know. I very much like minor characters in stories. So Dr. Badger tells him that it's a real wooden toy. So you are now rich, because he offers him like insane stuff, papers to be able to go to off-world colonies, or like animals and stuff. Like, according to the second movie established this at the very beginning, that the ecological collapse happened in mid-2020s, and from mid-2020s to 2049, wood became such a rare thing that it's so insanely expensive. Or perhaps ecological collapse happened much earlier, before the first movie, and so there would be much rarer, in fact. I don't know, but still, he tells Kay that this wood must be specifically from this part of the world, from this region, because of the specific radiation that it was subjected to. We follow the horse toy trail to Las Vegas. We are not told this is Las Vegas, but this is Las Vegas. So Kay flies to Vegas. Well, there is actually a cool scene. There is a lot of cool scenes in this movie. Visually stunning scenes. If you watch it for the first time, there is a cool scene now with a drone that flies, and we see things as if we were the drone, and we have like a little text on the screen that says that radiation is like, I don't remember exactly, minimal or normal or nominal, I think was the word used. Fuck. Nominal was the word that was used here. So, Kay spots some kind of a hit signature of something alive. He goes there. It's bees. Why is it bees? No idea. It's a desert with incredible air pollution and nothing alive, but there are bees in beehives, and he sticks his hand in a beehive, pulls it out, and there's a lot of bees on his hand, but he, like, I don't know if he doesn't have pain receptors, or actually more likely is so used to ignoring his own emotions that he does not care. And why is this scene here? What does it represent? Is it perhaps something like the unicorn scene? Or maybe not. Like, if you genuinely have any idea what this could represent, just let me know, because I am lost. He goes into some kind of a hotel or something like that, and it looks like I imagine Vegas looks like, so I guess it's Vegas because it's close to LA, and it's gambling den, and there are theaters and stuff. And there he finds a piano, plays one note, turns around, and there is a dog. Dog. And he turns around again, and there is a man. It's Rick Deckard. It's this guy. What the fuck is he doing here? Why is he here? The movie tries to tell some kind of a story, but Why? Why is Rick Deckard here? Movie? Why did you bring Gaff out earlier? Why did you make him say, well, I think that Deckard is not long for this world? Why would you bring up the idea that he might be a replicant? Just to burn it all away for some kind of a shock factor. Fuck you. So, Deckard is there. He speaks to Kay. Kay is like, I don't want to hurt you, I just want to talk. And Deckard is like, pow! And Kay is like, let me fall from this story and not be hurt. And Deckard is like, come on, dog, doggy dog, we're finding Kay right now. And Kay trips on a tripwire and explodes and dies. Not really though. Kay trips on a tripwire, things explode, but he doesn't, so Deckard, the dumbass he is, decides that the best thing to do is switch a giant switch and start playing music, and they are in some kind of a theater, and holograms of old school stars start appearing. I think they are playing, was it Elvis? Yes, it was Elvis. That hologram of an Elvis that is constantly crashing, and the audio is like cutting and only sporadically playing. And I think they tried to make it a horror like setting, similar to J.F. Sebastian's house, but it does not work. So it's actually kind of funny. But Deckard finds Kay, tries shooting him, gets beat up by Kay because that's a Deckard special, to get his shit kicked in. And even after that, he's like, fuck you, Kay, I will punch you again. And Kay is like, okay, I really don't want to do that. Punch me. And he does. And Kay stands up, unbothered. And Deckard punches him again, and Kay stands there, unbothered. And it repeats until Deckard is finally like, okay, do you want a drink because I am an alcoholic? And Kay is like, fine. So they have a drink, and they speak, and Deckard is like, so what's your name? And Kay starts reciting his number, K something something. And Deckard, the dumbass he is like very adamant, very angry. This is not a real name. What's it to you, Deckard? You fucking shitty asshole. And Kay says, it's Joe. And I don't know, it made me laugh so hard because I was sure he will say Joe Mama. I didn't watch it for the first time. I rewatched it, and every time it's Joe Mama. So they continue speaking. Kay asks Deckard if the dog is real. And Deckard says, I don't know. Ask him. Like, this movie, this is probably my favorite sentence in this movie, because it suggests it is capable of reaching deeper themes. Like, how do you know if somebody is real or not? Ask them, what is their opinion? you're a replicant, well, ask yourself, are you a real person or not? And it speaks to something, and it is thrown away. Again, it will not be coming back. So, while they speak, there are two things that are happening in the other plotline. So, when Kay gets Joy into the emanator, he breaks some kind of antenna, tracking antenna. Love is the replicant that works for Wallace. He's like, I lost connection and tracking of Kay. That's not good. Let me go to Joshi. And she goes to Joshi and she's like, where is Kay? And Joshi is like, I don't know. And Love is like, well, I need to find him. And Joshi is like, the kid is already dead. And Love is like, you are dumb, Joshi. You wanted the kid to die so bad. And also, what proof do you have? Just Kay's word? I will kill you now. And she does kill her now. And she sits at her computer, at Josh's computer, and and she needs to scan Josh's face to gain access. So she grabs Josh's head, puts it to the scanner. She lets her go, and she falls, bounces the head off the counter and falls down. And it's top tier slapstick comedy. Why am I holding this? Perhaps I need to clean my nails. So Josh is dead, but the important thing is that Love now has tracking of Kay's car. So she knows that he's in Vegas. So next day, when Kay and Deckard had a conversation about the fact that Rachel died and he abandoned her, and why he did that and he did not look for the kid, it's because apparently they were hunted. So Deckard told Rachel and somebody, apparently in 2 years they met a lot of replicants that were able to help them. I don't know, there's too many replicants that are still alive, meaning they are Nexus 8 in this story that met Rachel, because it means they met them between 2019 and 2021, which means that Nexus 8 came out somewhere in those years. We don't know if Nexus 7 existed, maybe they just skipped it and went to Nexus 8 immediately, but they came out with normal lifespans, I guess, while just 2 years before, Rachel was like top tier, only 4 years lifespan, we are not extending that. And also they came out, Nexus 8, after Tyrell died. So does it add up? Not for me. But basically, this asshole, Deckard, was like, I told Rachel how to hide, how to scrub the evidence, how to not be found by Blade Runners. And then the blackout came up, I guess, and deleted a lot of records. So it helped also. And he couldn't go and find the child because he wanted the child to be safe. Even though for 30 years, nobody knew that Deckard was there. But I guess it would be too bad if the child lived with Deckard, plot reasons. And so the next day they wake up, Deckard sees that somebody is flying to his crib, and he's like, Kay, who the hell did you bring here? And Kay is like, nobody. And Deckard is like, have a look. And Kay is like, oh hey, that's not good. And Deckard tries to run to Kay's car. I will not call him Joe, I'm sorry. Kay is a normal name. If he was named Kay for so long, what's the problem in calling him Kay? Changing your name can be helpful when you want to change your identity, I guess, but it's okay. Am I dead naming Kay but by calling him Kay? Should I really call him Joe? Joe Mama. So Deckard tries to run away from Kay and into Kay's car, locks the door behind him, and Kay just runs through the wall in a very funny way that made me laugh. Also, when they were fighting in the Elvis room, Kay came out from like a hologram, also in very funny way. This movie can make me laugh. It's very fun. They try to run to the car. Kay tries to stop Deckard from getting in, and the car gets shot and explodes. Next, some goons come out of the next flying car that comes out. They capture Deckard. Deckard tries to fight them, but he is Rick Deckard, so he gets beat up and he gets dragged out, and Kay stands up and tries to help Deckard, but then Love appears and Love kicks his ass, and from Kay's pocket, his pen, his emanator gets on the floor, basically. For some reason, Joy appears out of her own will, I guess. And Love sees that and is like, I'm evil. I'm going to do evil now. And she steps on the emanator and she kills Joy in this way. And remember, kids, she is the evil one. And Joy dies, and her last words are to Kay, and she tells him, I love you. You know, I don't buy either way if she is supposed to be represented as a person or as a program, because you could totally, in this fictional scenario, program a program to act in this way, but it could also be a human person. She does not have any like higher feelings expressed by herself. Like, she does seem to enjoy being outside and experiencing things for the first time, and she has her own ideas and thoughts. Kay treats her like a real person. And a couple of years ago, I would simply say that's enough, but now we have AI chatbots and people treat them like they are real people. And that's icky. So maybe not love, maybe Joy is in fact just AI chatbot. Well, she slightly disagrees with Kay on like one occasion, but besides that, she's very agreeable, and I don't know, maybe she is a person, maybe she isn't. That depends on how you read this. She dies, Kay is left to die, but remember how Mariette, the Lady of the Night, planted an AirTag on Kay. Well, it just so happens that it leads a specific faction that was not visible up to this point to find Kay in this state of dying. They bring him back to LA. They try to patch him up and they speak with him. They are a stupid idea. They are a rebellion of replicants led by Fraser. Fraser is maybe the only character that does not conform to certain standards of looking very good. And that is because she lacks one eye. And it's not really explained in the movie, but I think it's because she gouged it herself. I think the story is better if she did so, because she's all about being free, being a replicant that is free out of control of the system. And she already does not have an eye, so I think it would be better. It would be a grander thing if she did it herself, to just present herself as freed from having, this code on her eyeball. For some reason, dozens of people are here to speak to Kay, even though only Fraser talks. It's a weird scene. I don't know. And there's Fraser there, there's Mariette there. Fraser is like, we know where the child is, and we are keeping the child safe. And so Deckard, who is now captured by Love and by Wallace, must be killed because he cannot lead them back to me. And Fraser is like, the child is how Sapper said it, she's the miracle. She is true proof that we are human. And Mariette, for some reason, says more than human, something. Why does she say that? I have no clue. And again, they push this idea that an android having a child is the most human thing possible. I want to strangle somebody. Why, from this, talk about what it means to be a human? We concluded in the second movie, to be a human is to be able to reproduce. I hate it so much. I don't know what the fuck did they do to my movie, to my ideas about what it means to be human. Fuck that film, fuck that movie. I hate this idea. I hate this concept of those Nexus 8 replicants who met Rachel. Fraser is the woman that was on the photo with the child that Kay found in Sapper's house, where there was this dead tree with the box of Rachel's bones, Rachel's burial site, I guess. How come Fraser existed then? I don't know. There is so many replicants with her. And so, what is this movie about? It's not about what it means to be a human. It's not about oppressed fighting the oppressor, because the rebellion does not happen in this movie. It just exists in this nebulous way. You know that there is some person called Fraser, and she has some plans. And it's not a movie about that. It's not a movie about racism, because this plotline is cut down very early on. It's not a movie about a hero, about a person born from an android and human, because, wait for it, hey, my mic died, and I've got another monster. So, what is this movie about? It is about Kay. And Kay is a very interesting thing, actually. I love that, because Kay is not a main character in the grander story that can change a lot, that he is the most important little boy in this world. He is a minor character that believes in his importance, and through this can change things. He believes in himself, even though it is based on a lie, and he finds some kind of freedom, some kind of power to act. And that is because, as we learn in this scene, and as I have already said, if you caught it, Fraser speaks about this child as it's a girl. And you might remember that when Kay was searching through genetic code of the child, there were two children. The girl died, and the boy was still alive. But actually, it was a ruse. It was a thing planted by them to make it harder to find the child, and the child is a girl. So Kay has an identity crisis, because he believed himself to be this very special little boy. And so Kay is very sad, and Fraser is like, well, we all wish or wished to be this person, to be this special, to have a family, actually, to be born. And it again is about the fact that the most important thing this movie thinks exists is to be born and not created, which is so antithetical to the first movie. I keep repeating myself, but it gets on my nerves so much. It's amazing. So they let Kay go, but they tell him that he must kill Deckard, because Deckard cannot tell Wallace about Fraser and about this rebellion kind of thing. So Kay walks out with his bandages on him, and then we have very fun, very popular scene, finally, where he walks down the street and a hologram of Joy sees him, and as a good targeted advertisement, she points him out and says, "You look lonely. I can fix that." And I guess it can have multiple interpretations of whether it means that Joy all along was simply an algorithm, was some kind of AI assistant that was made specifically to sell to lonely men, to make them pay for emotions, make them pay for what they lacked from the real world. Or maybe it suggests that this is such a strange thing, because even if Kay loved Joy, even if we accept that Joy was a real person after she was initially bought by him, I guess, then what does it mean if he could get another one, exact copy of it? He's very sad about it. Like, what does it mean when a person that exists basically to be a slave, he's a replicant, he was made for purpose of working, for being enslaved, basically. Replicants equal slaves. And even though he apparently gets paid, he buys joy, which is a very strange situation. He's like a freed slave because he at least gets paid, and buys a slave for himself. And Joy cannot choose. She cannot choose not to love him. She cannot choose to live. She is bound to him. And that's fucked up. To that point, very similar scene, we cut to Deckard. And Deckard is held captive by Wallace. And Wallace is like, I'm evil. And Wallace is like, hey Deckard, throughout your life, throughout this whole time, have you ever thought about the possibility that Rachel, the fact that you fell in love with her immediately, the fact that she was so almost designed for you, didn't appear in your head? Because maybe, just maybe, she was designed for you. She was designed to make you fall in love. She was designed for that one specific purpose. And Wallace is sure that it's true, and Wallace explains that it must have been Taylor's? Sorry. And he tells us, as well as Deckard, that it was Tyrell's plan to make Deckard fall in love with Rachel, and together they would have a child. This is so idiotic. I hate it so much. Why this movie, the second movie, tries to retcon so much about the first one, while it cannot even keep its shit together? Why would Tyrell make Rachel specifically for Deckard? For Deckard, who can die at any given moment because he's a Blade Runner, and he, as presented before, should have died many, many times. Rachel escaped with Deckard, which complicates things so much. Why, if Tyrell is genius, we are told so many times that Tyrell is a genius, why wouldn't he simply keep her and bring some stable person? Why would he rely on Deckard and his stability? Why would it be Deckard? And why would he let Rachel just wander off? Makes no sense. And if what Wallace says is true, then Deckard's and Rachel's story is again undercut. Like, why the fuck this movie does that? And then Wallace is like, well, I'm evil. You need to tell me where the child is. And he's like, oh, we can do it the easy way or the hard way. And the easy way is that he recreated Rachel with her bones. So she's like a carbon copy of real Rachel. And Deckard is in very same situation that Kay was right before, in the scene right before, because Kay was met with joy that is exact copy of a woman of AI that he fell in love with. And he's met with a choice. Will he buy another one? Or does he believe that his own joy was a singular entity that cannot be recreated? He thinks that it was something real, and as she died, she cannot be replaced with a copy of herself. And Deckard is met with the very same choice as Wallace recreated Rachel, but I guess without ability to have children, because she apparently has that ability. Also remember that Deckard slept with like a woman, a grown woman to be fair, but who has been alive for less than 4 years. We don't know exactly how many, but that's true. And he is presented with this copy. And this movie is so good at undercutting itself, because instead of Deckard having some realization, some thought about what the hell is happening, he says to Wallace, her eyes were green because this new Rachel, Rachel Plus, has a different color of eyes. And we are left with that. So would Deckard accept this Rachel if she had green eyes, or is he saying that she is not real? She is not the real Rachel, just in his own way. We will never know, but it's so incredibly funny that they left this in, this possibility to interpret his action as, well, she has a different eye color, so I guess I will not go for her. And of course, technical ability of this movie is once again great. They recreate the actress Rachel. She looks very good on the screen, and Deckard says her eyes were green, and Wallace is like, I'm so evil, now you will learn what pain is. And and in incredibly comedic fashion, Love just pulls out a gun and shoots Rachel in the head. Because remember, children, she is the evil one. So Love takes Deckard into some kind of transport in a car, And for some reason, the idea of Love and of Wallace is to send Deckard into off-world, some kind of colony, I guess. Why? We do not know, but we know that Kay shows up in his own car and he shoots down the car that Love and Deckard are driving in. And they fall at the edge of like a body of water, and Kay gets out, he kills the driver, he shoots at Love, and Love shoots at him at the same time, and they both survive, although bloodied, and they have a very silly fight, and Love almost kills Kay, and she's like, I'm the best. Remember the first movie when the main antagonist was Roy and he killed many people and his ending was the most poetic, his end of life was the most meaningful, and he proved, if not to anybody else, to himself, that he is a real person. In the second movie, we have Love, who is so shallow. Like, she's not a good character. She's not well written. She's like, I'm the best. Daddy loves me the most. I am such a good replicant and I always win. And then the car in which Deckard is trapped starts sinking and Love goes to get him because she needs him alive. And then Kay swims there and kills Joy? And kills Love. And that's her end. And Wallace does not die, as Tyrell did in the first movie. Wallace just keeps Wallacing all over Tyrell Corporation's main building. I don't know what this guy does in his free time. Probably kill, because he's so evil and we must be reminded of it. So Love dies, Kay and Deckard escape, and Kay actually saves Deckard from drowning and gets him to the shore. Deckard helps Kay get to the shore as well, because Kay at some point from his wounds start to give up. And then something very funny happens, because Kay is like, now you can go and meet your daughter. And they go there immediately, which means that at this point, Kay already knows where Deckard's daughter is, and he went on this mission with this information. So if he was captured, the whole plan would be foiled. But they arrive at Dr. Anne Stelline's little enclosure where she is held because her immune system is so bad that she cannot go out. Oh wait, that's a lie. They just kept her here because they wanted to know where she is and they wanted to keep her safe. So this miracle child, this hope of the future, was held captive, imprisoned, lied to by the rebellion. Why? I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why. Like, Fraser says that Dr. Anne Stelline, this girl who has been entrapped from the age of like 8, will lead the rebellion. She has no education. She lives alone and she creates fake memories. and that is the child of Rick Deckard and Rachel. And then at the steps of the building in which she lives, Kay lays down on the ground as the snow falls and meets his end. Perhaps fulfilled. I hope so. This is a good scene. This is where the bleed out spot idea comes from. And the movie ends. So I am left with just one question. Why did Kay have Anne Stelline's memory within him? Why did he have a memory that wasn't his and that was real? We know it is illegal to do that from Anne Stelline herself. And we know it is her memory. So she must have had this idea and capability to do that, to sell this memory as if it was fake memory to Wallace Corporation, to put this memory into Kay. And I just don't know why would she do that. She does not seem to be a person that would do such thing, and I do not know why would she. What's the logic here? Why does Kay have memory that is Anne's? We do not know, and it is not explained. And perhaps one thing is true in both movies, that no character is good here. Like even Anne, who is entrapped, she's a prisoner against her will because of a lie, and she has no ability to kill anybody like everybody else in this movie. Maybe not everybody. But she implants this memory into Kay for no reason and makes him hurt. Like, I guess he becomes more free because of it, but still, that's a fucked up thing to do. Why would you do that? Because there is no chance that it was intentional. It's an accident that Kay, specifically Kay, had this memory within himself implanted, and he was the guy that found Rachel's body. That is coincidence. Coinkidink. So why? I don't know. I feel like the thing I said at the very beginning, that things that could have been so good, so great, but have been mistaken in some way, that have not been done properly, are so infuriating because you see how good it could be, but it does not reach that point. That is how I feel about the second movie. About the first, a little less. I think the first works good without the second. When second comes to play, the first one becomes worse, and the second one becomes worse because of its connection to the first one. It could have been its own story within this universe. It could have been good. Could have been real good. But instead, it's a sequel to this movie, the first Blade Runner, and it destroys both of them. And I don't know if I will watch the mini-series that is supposed to get released this year on Amazon Prime. Maybe I will hate watch it, Because even though Ridley Scott comes back to take part in making of it, I don't believe the vision. If it's supposed to continue the story of the second movie, I think it will be shit, frankly. Like, I like Kay so much, and Joy's story about whether she is real, she isn't. The fact that it had so much potential, yet it was destroyed by itself. And now they are making yet another continuation of this story that is so messed up that it doesn't make sense, even with just 2 entries, because of the second movie. And, you know, sometimes creators, or maybe studios, some kind of overhead, wants to bring people in that are famous, that are connected to something, and push it into another thing, and it makes this thing worse. Harrison Ford did not have to be in the second movie, and it would be better for it. But somebody decided to bring him back, and he is back. And it is so sad, because Blade Runner original is important for, in general, is important for cinema, because Ridley Scott was so fed up with what this movie looked like when it came out that it led to existence of director's cut because of this movie and because of Ridley Scott. And it's an important part of cinema history. And the second movie leads to nothing. And it looks beautiful, and characters are likable, at least Kay and some others. But it's, well, I think I said enough. I want to like this franchise, and I want to like the second movie. But I simply cannot. And so, let me know, what do you think about it all? Maybe you have a different opinion. Please share it. I doubt that you will change my mind, but perhaps you can at least express what you feel, and I can read it and understand your position. Like and subscribe if you survived to this point, and see you around. Fuck. Yes. The other fun